Oh, I am not in the light. Not in the light, not in the light. Hello, I am Anthony Renteria, and this is A Lonely Critic, where I am lonely because I'm a critic. So today, I just got out of my screening for Belfast, written and directed by Kenneth Branagh. I actually just came to like a theater that I've never been to in Alabama, and they had like the reclining seats, so I had a great time. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, I'm a mess. If I start, yeah, I had a couple beers, so if I start slurring my words, that is why. Anyways, I watched Belfast today, and these are my immediate reactions and, review. Just walked out of the theater. I have a lot of thoughts that I'm, like, processing. So, for anyone who doesn't know about this film, Kenneth Branagh, he's a pretty, popular actor. I'm sure you've seen him in a lot of films, and more than that, he is a very accomplished director. He's done a bunch of like Shakespeare adaptations. Notably, he directed the first Thor film. That's honestly the only film of his that I've seen. I haven't seen his other work. None of his work that I've seen, the clips and stuff, has been of interest to me. Now, the reason that I watched this film, not only because it is like one of the few new weekend releases theatrically, but also because, why am I to the left so much? I'm pretty aware of the landscape of cinema right now, and like, you know, what's popular and what critics and film enthusiasts are talking about. And this film, Belfast, has been at the top of a lot of people's list. You know, right now this film is the projected Best Picture winner, and I will say it is totally it totally makes sense. Like, coming out of the movie, I'm like, yep, that's the Best Picture winner of the year. Yep. And I say that in almost in a negative way. So for anyone who doesn't know what the film is about, it's essentially like a semi-memoir autobiography. A lot of people compare it to Roma. I don't think it has anything to do with Roma at all. Like, I don't think it has any similarities to Roma, besides the fact that it's about a filmmaker who is, you know, revisiting his past. But I think even Roma is larger than that, because it's more about the maid that he grew up with versus him as a child, and it's more about it's about specific viewpoints, where I feel like this film doesn't really have a specific viewpoint. I mean, it does, but that's one of the flaws I'll talk about later. And then I think the only reason people are really comparing the two is because of black and white. This film is like 99.8.9% of the film is shot in black and white. Only the intro and the outro of the film, you know, have color, and certain scenes have color, little splashes of color. Back to the basic synopsis. So the basic synopsis is, this is kind of a memoir, semi-autobiography, you know, recounting tale of Kenneth Branagh's childhood. The child in the center of the story is, I guess, representative of him as a child. So it takes place in Belfast, which I believe, based on the film, is a town or a city that is in Ireland. The film has a lot of nostalgia for that place. That's the basic synopsis. So right off the top, my immediate reactions are, I mean, like, I kind of got ahead of myself in the beginning here. It is obviously Best Picture frontrunner, and I say that with a large amount of disappointment. I think there are a bunch of films that I've seen this year so far that I deem, in my personal opinion, and even in a subjective way, I feel like they are representative of the year of cinema, and they are representative of the creators and the beauty of the art form that is cinema. This film, not so much, but it does tick something that I think the Oscars love, which is, I mean, let's just say what it is. It is what it is. This film is like complete Oscar bait, alright? I think no one can watch this film and not think, oh god, that's Oscar bait. And I think I say that as a negative, because what is Oscar bait? You know, it is a film that has this like pandering sense to it, and I guess I'm coming off more negative than I want to be, because I think there are elements of this film that are good, but overall, the majority of it feels very weak. It feels very pandering. It feels very, it just feels so forced. And which oddly enough is one of my biases. I love black and white. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love any kind of imagery that is deconstructive. You know, I think that's why I have such a deep passion for film, like film grain, like something that's actually shot on film. I love that. it messes with the image. It messes with the clarity. It messes with perfection. And I think imperfection is perfection. This film is obviously digital. Again, just like Roma. So like, I don't want anyone to be like, oh, Roma's digital. But I think what's missing in this film, I think the black and white is fine. I think it's well. I think it was a good choice, and I think it's the right choice. When you're trying to tell an autobiographical tale, and you're trying to dig deep into memories and to like a semi-visual memoir of some sort, I think black and white works very well for that. That was probably the best element for me, was the black and white aesthetic. I love that aesthetic. You know, there were certain shots that I loved, and I guess I'll bleed into my opinions of shit. If I haven't said in the beginning, there's gonna be no spoilers. I don't think I've spoiled anything, but if you're already watching this and you're like, wait, are you gonna spoil something? I'm not gonna spoil anything, so don't worry, no spoilers. I am very tired as well. I'm extremely exhausted. Work is horrible. I was expecting to watch a Wes Anderson film, and I did not. So I guess that's another layer of bias, is you know, you're expecting to watch a certain film, and then you watch this, and then it's like, that was a film. Back to Belfast. What was I saying? I was talking about the aesthetic. Now, since we're already talking about visuals, let's talk about the cinematography. I think it's a lot of nice shots, but a nice shot is a nice shot. But your film isn't one nice shot, unless it's a one-shot film. So what happens here is what I hate the most about television, which is a collection of nice shots. It is, oh my god, what if we just did a tracking shot for this scene? That's genius. That's the most genius freaking thing of all time. I watched like a first episode of Euphoria, because it was free on HBO Max, because I was gonna watch Zack Snyder's Watchmen for my Comic Firm podcast. But anyways, I watched that first episode of Euphoria. I was very interested because I have grown to have a newfound fascination with Zendaya because of her role in Dune, and I was like, well, let me check out her other stuff, because I liked how she felt in that film. So I watched Euphoria, which I think is like her biggest work. The reason I'm pointing this out is, so I watched the first episode, and it was just an amalgamation and a collection of nice, beautiful shots. Shots that were probably very difficult to pull off. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not a technical feat. They were all technical feats, you know, whether it was tracking shots, you know, sudden moments of beautiful handheld shots, you know, certain compositions that were framed in a certain way, and they were all nice individually, and you know, in a technical, creative, but as a whole, the whole episode just felt so gross to me. You know, it just felt like vomit. It just felt like beautiful bits of vomit that collected to what? And it collected to nothing to me. I was like, what is the visual aesthetic of this film? Like, what is the tone? What is the voice? What am I looking at? Am I just looking at nice shots, you know, back to back, and none of the shots feel connected in any way? And I feel like Belfast, and the reason I have this huge spiel, I'm already 15 minutes into my review. The reason I bring it up for Belfast and this huge spiel is because I feel like Kenneth Branagh and his cinematographer did the exact same thing. There is a lot of beautiful shots. You could argue every shot is beautiful, but no, not even like from shot to shot did it feel cohesive in any way. This was like one of the most incohesive films I have ever seen, because it was just so, like, I was like, what is going on visually here? Like, what is the aesthetic? What is the, like, meaning? What is the purpose? Now, and I'm not saying any one scene was ugly, but as a whole, I felt so disconnected as a viewer. I felt so disconnected as someone who is fascinated with cinema and cinematography and shot designs and compositions and lighting. I was like, what are you really doing here? You know, like, I mean, there's scenes that work, and they're beautiful, and they're amazing, and there are shots and compositions and lighting setups that are like, wow, those are stunning, like, just like actually stunning shots. But the tone and the cadence of them and the variation, like, I didn't feel like there was I didn't feel any cohesiveness visually, and that was like so strange, and that, you know, supports my criticism that it feels almost like Oscar bait. Like, it just feels like beautiful shots for the sake of beautiful shots. Obviously, I don't think these guys made this film with the intention of it being Oscar bait or anything like that. I just think it's a lack of creativity and inspiration. well, not even inspiration. There's a lack of, like, I don't know what the word is, but certain filmmakers, specifically auteurs, understand the idea of structure, and they understand the idea of a voice. You know, you watch, you know, any director, even the ones you don't like. For example, let's say Zack Snyder. I just watched The Watchmen a couple days ago. All his visuals feel like they're coming from Zack Snyder, and they all feel like one cohesive cloth that you're just seeing in cut up pieces. This did not feel like that. It felt very disjointed visually. And I guess just to leave that topic, because I feel like I've already said everything I could say about that. So talking about the visuals, the other thing that, you know, kind of supports this idea that I have that is just like a mess, it is the soundtrack and the score of this film felt almost like jarring when it snapped in and out of different tones. And I mean tones like the tones of the film, like emotional tones. Gosh, you know, there's moments where it's like, you know, happy, and then it just plays this like dance number, you know, this I don't want to say generic because I've never heard any of these songs, but it felt obvious. Like the song choice felt very obvious, which is fine. A lot of other films I've watched have had obvious song choices, but it feels weird when it, you know, it's a dancing number and everyone's happy, and then it immediately cuts to like somberness and sadness. And not only does it not match audio wise because of the song choices, but it doesn't match visually, like what I just talked about. You know, it would be all excited, you know, the camera's like spinning around a character, people are dancing, and then blah 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 blah, and then we're into sadness and oh my god, what are we gonna do, and all this stuff. I don't know, I did not like the tone. I didn't like a lot about this film. It just felt very I don't like Oscar bait stuff, and I feel like it just covers that niche and that genre. If I can even call Oscar bait a genre, it just feels dumb. And I mean, maybe that's offensive to some people who like the movie, but it just felt dumb to me. Like, it didn't feel like it had any sort of intelligence or reserve or conviction. That's the word, conviction. A true auteur or a filmmaker, an artist, or whatever craft you're in. I think, and a lot of my favorite filmmakers and writers say this. Stephen King famously, kill your darlings. You know, it's like you are at the mercy of the story you're trying to tell. And it becomes more about what reinforces the story I'm trying to tell. And if it doesn't reinforce that, then I don't do it. I shouldn't do it. I can't do it. It doesn't need to be done. And in this film, it doesn't, like the true center of this film is the lead character, who is this young boy, you know, who represents Kenneth Branagh, the director and writer of the film, and his emotional journey through his memories of what happened in Belfast and his family. But a lot of the film, I feel like we don't really get to experience through his eyes. Like, I mean, he is the protagonist, and we do see a lot through his eyes. I would argue 70%. We see 70% of the film through his eyes. We see a lot of stuff outside of his eyes, and it just becomes very distracting in a emotional way, to where I'm not connected to his character anymore, and I'm not linked to that thread. You know, like he has his father and his mother and all these other supporting characters. And I think like the core idea of the story is beautiful, and there's a lot of potential emotionally and thematically and creatively. But the execution here just does not work for me, for my taste, for what I like of films. I think it is the perfect film for the typical Oscar voter. You know, like, let's all be honest. The majority of the Oscar voters are white, old males. And I mean, I'm not trying to say white old people are bad or have horrible taste, but I mean, it just feels like a film that they would watch and they'd be like, oh my god, that was beautiful, and that should win an Oscar. And I don't know. I don't even know why I'm stuck on the Oscar talk. I guess because the only reason I watched this film was because everyone was like, oh, this is gonna win the Oscar. And now I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna win the Oscar? Great. You know, it's like last year with Nomadland. I love Chloe Zhao and her work with the writer, but I didn't think Nomadland was that great of a film. You know, I gave that film like a 6 out of 10. I appreciate the messages and the ideas, but execution-wise, I think it faltered. And I don't think that's a bad thing to say, to be like, look, you had a brilliant concept, but you did not execute it in the way that I think a lot of people kind of brute force it to be. Like I feel like a lot today, and I mean it's always happened, specifically with Oscars or any film kind of talk. It's almost like if a film has a good message, then it feels almost taboo or like controversial to be against it. And I think it's like, no, I mean it should be like what you felt from the movie. If you enjoyed the movie, you enjoyed the movie. If you hated the movie and it just happened to be about some controversial topic that you support or whatever idea or ideology or whatever, like it doesn't matter. It's all about what you felt. And I guess I didn't really feel a lot. Like I mean there were a bunch of sentimental parts, but again, it was just like the structure of it and the way it was laid out. More frustrating than anything. Like it just felt like a generic memoir-esque film. Like it felt like, again, it had like no sense of conviction. I didn't feel any sort of like like I imagine if I were to ever make a film about my past and my history or my life or whatever, I would hope that I would tackle that in a way to where it feels like I've learned or I have grown past that moment, or I have some sort of point of view about it. And I think Roma did that by centering it on a character that wasn't a person who felt and saw the things that they felt and saw. That I think that is conviction, is by saying, you know what, I want to make a film about my childhood, but you know who affected my childhood the most? My maid. The maid that my mom paid for, who was indigenous and ridiculed and, was working essentially a dead-end job, and somehow that person was the person that influenced my life more than anyone. I think that is some sort of conviction to release from yourself. And I'm not saying like the film should have been about someone other than the little kid. I think the little kid in this film, like let's actually talk about the little kid. The actor, Jude Hill. I think he did a great job. All my favorite scenes were with him. Every moment that we left the little kid, Jude Hill, I was like, man, this sucks. Honestly, like every time we left him, I was like, I just want to see the little kid. And that's probably like the one change I would have wanted, is that I would have done and that I would have wanted as a viewer, is like, why didn't we just see the whole film through his eyes? Like, why weren't we just in a hyper first person, like anything he saw and that he learned and that he understood, that's what we got. And I think that would have made a more powerful film, because his performance was great. Like his little mannerisms and his emotional performance, I thought it was fantastic for such a young performer. Everyone else did well as well. Overall, the film is a mushy, messy tone. I don't want to say tone deaf, but the tone is all over the place, and the pacing is all over the place, and the structure is all over the place, and the visual identity is all over the place, and the score and the soundtrack, it's all over the place. I mean, it just feels like a film that he wanted to make because maybe he's feeling some sort of like memorabilia or something to where he wanted to revisit his past. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it has any conviction or anything unique or anything worth taking away, from my opinion. There are a lot of great moments, but as a whole, it just felt weak to me. I think one of the biggest complaints I have is the beginning of the film. Again, no spoilers in specifics, but how it starts. It felt so staged and fake. And then it gets into this like little, there's a little conflict that erupts, I'll say that. And I think that's centered to the whole story is these conflict situations. And for the first like 15-20 minutes of the film, I'm like, what is going on? What is this film? What am I watching? What, who, where, what, who, what, where, what, just over and over again. And then, as the film grows, I started to understand things, but I was just so confused. Like, why would you start the film like that? And why not just, set us with the kid immediately? And I mean, set us with the kid, like, narratively and emotionally. Like, let's just be with that kid, and then you can start planning all the stuff around him. As you can tell, I'm very tired. But instead, it's just a mushy, messy film. I am very tired. But yeah, I'm at the 30-minute mark. I think that concludes my review for Belfast. I feel like I didn't do a great job talking about it. Again, I'm tired. I had 2 beers. I'm sleepy. This was supposed to happen 2 hours before it happens now. Like around 9 o'clock, which it's like 10 o'clock. Almost 11 o'clock right now. I'm usually in bed or starting to pass out at 9 o'clock because I am just so exhausted from work and... Jesus Christ. Ugh. So I think that concludes my review for Belfast and my immediate reactions. I think I would give this film a... I want to give it a 4 out of 10. You know, that's the feeling I feel in my gut. That immediate, like, yeah, that was a 4 out of 10. But it wasn't a bad film. You know, like, it wasn't bad. It just was so messy and visually incoherent. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. I don't think it's a horrible film, but I think it's a bad film. Yeah, I think it's a bad film. I just think it had a lot of interesting ideas, a lot of interesting concepts and emotional themes. But in the grand scheme, the entirety of it, it just feels generic, feels obtuse. It feels the tone. It just feels there's a lot to love. You know, like there's moments where this kid is obviously watching films and watching plays and falling in love with the medium of performance and capturing performances and directing and acting and even novels. There's a little hint at an Agatha Christie novel. All that stuff is awesome, but just an execution, like, I just don't think Kenneth Branagh is that great of a director. You know, like, maybe it's a monetary issue or a financial issue or a scheduling or technical issue or something, but just as a whole, I think it's a weak film. Who would I recommend it to? I think if you are an older viewer, I think that there's probably something you would enjoy about it. I watched the screening. This is Thursday night, so it's like the premiere screening. And there was there was a bunch of older folks in my screening. I think I was the only person. Oh, wow. How many yawns can I do, man? I think I was the only person that was like under 50. So it was an older audience, and they all seem to have a great time. So I think if you're in that older camp and you like that kind of reflective, older kind of cinema, it's all through, you know, kind of a lens of a child, I think you'll enjoy it. If you like Ireland, I think you'll enjoy it. You know, I think it does capture Ireland in a certain specific way. I don't know if it's authentic or accurate or, you know, fits the vibe, but it captures something. You know, obviously Kenneth Branagh spent a bunch of time in Ireland, living in Belfast when he was a child, so, you know, I do think there's a lot of authenticity that comes from it. Other than that, I mean, I guess if you like Oscar bait, if you're like, I love The Green Book. Other than that, I don't think I would recommend it to anyone. I mean, I just think it was a bad film. I'm gonna just do some plugs real quick. Check out alonelywriter.com for my written reviews. Yeah, I think that concludes this discussion on Belfast. I'm sure it will be a film we will all hear about the coming months until Oscar season's over. I just want to say right here, right now, if it wins an Oscar for Best Picture, Best Director, I mean, if it wins an Oscar for anything, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? I can't do an Irish accent. I did like the accents. I love, and like, this film has 2 major brownie points. So I feel like my 4 out of 10 is, two of those points are for Irish accents, because I just love any accent in any film. I just love listening to unique voices. Unique to me, living in Alabama, in the United States of America. Anything that's not that is unique to me, so I like that. And then the other 2 points come from the, you know, visual aesthetic, it being black and white. So, you know, that's awesome. But yeah, it's weird. So this is my first time coming to this theater, and this is like the luxury theater of my area, you know, that has like reclining seats, and like every person who's entered a car is on a date. But these are not like normal dates. These are like fancy, expensive dates, and everyone's like opened the door for their date, but it feels like almost like a mandatory. I think it would be cool to start like a people watching YouTube channel. I think I would like that. I like to watch people. Alright, I'm sorry. That's creepy. I'm a creep. I used to go by digital creep because I thought that would be funny, and it's not funny. Being a creep is not good. It's not a good thing. But I just think, you know, just looking at how humans interact with each other is interesting. Is that not interesting? I mean, that's part of, like, I think why I like films, is like a peek into other people. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird seeing people on dates. And yeah, that concludes my I need to go to bed. Alright, I need to go to bed so I can go to work for another 10 to 12 hours. Maybe watch a movie, read a book, and record a podcast or a video. That is life. So, thank you. I'm going to pick this up. Oh my god, I'm out of focus. And you have a good day. And I will see you. Hopefully, I swear, if I don't watch and review The French Dispatch, we have a problem. All right, that has to happen. I will quit my job. I cannot live this life not seeing a Wes Anderson film. I am tired. I can't even speak. All right, goodbye. Have a great day.